I got the plywood skin on the wall yesterday. Today, I'm going to try to get it caulked and at least get the first coat of paint on it. I believe on the first wall, I did this wrong. What I did was paint first, and then I caulked the screw holes and the gaps. Then I put the second coat of paint on. I believe the proper way to do it is to caulk first and then paint. Otherwise, when you're painting, you get dribbles at every one of these, real nasty dribbles. You're gonna get dribbles either way. But if you paint first, it's kind of a mess. So what I'm gonna do is get up on the scaffold and caulk all of those screw holes, move the scaffold, and get this done. Then that needs to dry 2 to 4 hours, which is gonna make it pretty late in the evening. But I'm gonna try to get back out here and get the first coat of primer on it as well today. This is pretty simple stuff. What I do is overfill the screw holes, and then it starts building up on the putty knife, and when it's built up a little too much, I pop that stuff into the gap. And when I'm working on the lower walls there, I'll work that into the vertical gap. Yeah, the first time I did this, like I said, I had figured that the wood being sealed was a better way to prep it for the caulk, and the caulk really doesn't need any prep. You definitely want to caulk it first, and then do the painting. And like I said, I will be doing the first coat of primer over this in about 4 hours, and then that whole mess will dry up overnight. Yeah, out of caulk. Always have another tube ready. I've been filling the little holes as well. There's a bunch of little knot holes in this. I forget where I was at, but I believe I was reiterating the correct order in doing this. And it works dramatically better to caulk first. And the last couple holes, I quit squeezing so that this stops pumping stuff out. Yeah, a little more. I don't want it drooling all over the place. And that is about it for the caulk. Like I said, I've been filling any little defects, but this is BC exterior plywood, and it's basically one big defect, so I don't go hog wild trying to fix every little thing on it. You can see that it's filling all kinds of little surface imperfections as it is, and in the end it's going to look beautiful for a shop wall. Gotta clear my putty knife. Oh, and another thing about this BC X plywood is that from one panel to the next, they're going to be different thicknesses. Sometimes it's just a tiny bit, and sometimes it's actually quite a bit. And we're gonna pay that, no, never mind. It's the exact same way on the other wall over there, and although I noticed it a lot when I was doing this kind of stuff last time, I don't notice it at all in the day-to-day work out here. It's all coming back to me now. You got to figure out how far you can go before this stuff starts drying. In this case, I can do about 2 feet of the crack, and then I have to start smoothing it out before it starts drying on me. And I believe I could have went further when I did this last time in the winter, but now you start smoothing it out, and then any excess I put out into the field. And I'm pretty sure that's how I did it on the other wall as well. I should have went back and watched the video. That was, I believe, oh, maybe that was on Trapdoor, but that could have been on Planet Mojo. You can see this stuff starts getting really hard to work, and any little divots in the wall don't help. At a point really quick, it doesn't want to smooth anymore, so if you go past that point, you're going to have a mess. So it's better to leave it than to over smooth it. And this stuff is not meant to be troweled at all. This is caulk, and they don't really even want you to smooth it with your finger, but I do that as well. Okay, now when this gets painted, it's gonna look just fine. Yeah, it doesn't look bad now, but it's going to shrink into the gap, and I'm just gonna leave that alone. So now, once I get done with that, I clean my putty knife on the wall. And then get the rest of it off with some paper towel, and then I start on the next 2 feet and then get those screws filled. You can see some of the screws aren't filled, and at the very end I'll get those filled, and the next one does not have a gap, so I'm nearly done. Check on the temperature in here. It is almost 87 degrees and the sun is nearly down. Not enough time to get a coat of paint on this today, but I'll get set up and we'll start that first thing in the morning. It's the next day and this has had like 12 hours to dry. Got a little gap right there. I had to cut some stuff out. So after the primer's dry, I'm gonna put more caulk in there, but other than that, everything is really nice. I'm gonna cut in all the way around. I remember when I was doing the other side, if I left the top edge uncut in, I would roll up to the top edge and it would look real nice, but there would be a big blob of paint up on top. And I have a chair molding that's gonna go on top of there, and I don't wanna take a razor knife and clean all that off. I would rather just cut it in. So let me go around and cut this in with primer, and then we'll roll on a coat of paint, and hopefully I have enough primer to do 2 coats, but we'll see. This takes 3 coats altogether to cover, and it could probably use 4. The paint that I'm using says, where is that? That it covers in 1 coat, but well, it says it somewhere. This is what I'm using for the paint: ultra white satin interior forever paint. And for primer, I'm using Zinsser Fast Prime 2. So let's get this opened up and get to painting. That looks real nice for primer. As soon as this dried up a little bit, I went over it with a razor knife and took off any ridges in that putty. And there was a couple screw holes that were still open. I filled those. That was, 3 hours ago or so. And this is dry again. It's like 86, 87 in here again today. So this stuff is drying incredibly fast. So now for the top coat. Oh, you could see that one little defect. Maybe you won't be able to see it, but that hole right there, that's our hole for the mini split. That's the only one I want there. Okay, let's see if we got enough paint. I thought I had both of these, but this one has a label on it and it shouldn't. So yeah, black, yellow oxide, and raw something. What is that? Raw umber. It looks white, but this is the only paint that I got. Hopefully, well, I have a brand new gallon, but I'm hoping that this will do it. Let me get this shook up and hopefully finish this up. Yeah, the paint is much whiter than the primer. So as soon as this is done, that'll free me up to put in the drain for this, the heater drain, which needs a wall to attach it to, and it'll have to go through the wall. It'll allow me to put that in, and the sub panel and electric on this side, and the mini split. And a little further down, and I'll be able to put my water outlet in as well, but that just needs to be done before winter so that I can test it out. Well, all of this stuff needs to be done before winter. I don't want to be working out in the snow and ice with a ladder out there installing this stuff. I'm all done with the paint, so the next thing to do on this is put that template on here and figure out exactly where the bracket's gonna go. And once the bracket's in place, then I can drill a 5/8 inch hole through that hole, use that as a guide, and then run a flush trim bit around it, and then a quarter round, and then sand it up a little bit, touch it up with a little bit of paint, and that'll be done. Then over here we get a chair rail on the bottom and a J molding on this side. That side can't be done yet, just like that side. And then I'll put in the tin over to the wall. Then I can put in my saddles, some saddle brackets here, and my conduit coming down, and my sub panel right here. Then I'll have electricity over here. That'll be so cool. Well, I'll have air conditioning as well, but I need to mount the inside unit and then pull the refrigerant lines down, and I'm casting a base for this unit, so that's going to take a couple days. I'm going to actually start that video in a couple minutes, but that's going to be on the other channel. I'm going to cast, what is it, like 18 by 43 by 5.5 inch thick concrete base. And while we're working in here, we shouldn't hear this at all. It'll be right outside the wall there, but it's going to be on that heavy duty base, and we have a good amount of insulation in here. I'm hoping to not hear it at all. So the next thing I will be doing in here is one or the other. Either I'll be putting the bracket in for the mini split and routing that out and actually installing the interior unit. I'll either be doing that or putting this tin in, but whichever one comes first, the other one's going to follow real soon after. I want to get this wall, or this area of the wall, done real soon so I can get back to stuff over here and get this ductwork done, get the dust collection working, and get the air compressor working. A lot of stuff is nearly done, and it's all going to start falling in place real soon. Also, we're going to be running that line right here, the drain line, that needs an outdoor sump right over here somewhere. That's going to be fairly difficult because the sump's going to have to be down there a bit, but won't be too bad. So make sure you subscribe and stop back to see all that stuff.